Amazing Grace, what a lovely place. You ever feel like your financial life is like a Monopoly game? One roll of the dice lands you on Park Place filled with hotels and high taxes, and another, do not pass go, do not collect $200 and go directly to jail. And you don't even have the get out of jail free card, right? You ever feel that way in your finances? Yeah, sometimes, right? Well, it's not about the money, is it? It's about the beliefs that we have about money based on the experiences of money that we have had all of our lives throughout our upbringing. You're normally formed at a very young age. Did you find my slide? No. I had a really cool slide. Internet ate it this morning, but anyway. It shows all of these little children and the infants and the various ways they're exposed to money. Some are saving. The parents are holding an infant child in a jar of change, and you know the message is save, 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 right? There's the message of you got to do your chores and get paid for it and compensated. There's the message of giving to others and giving to others. All of these are messages that we receive as we're growing up that we make a story up about. Last week, Reverend Karen talked to you about your core story around money, didn't she? Everybody discover their money story? Maybe. Some working on it, unfolding. Yeah. And it's interesting how those stories keep popping in. There's little memories. It's like, oh, okay. And then as we learn this material, we begin to see how that seemingly innocent event shaped us in our financial decisions in our lives going forward. So these generalities, this core story, manifests itself as an archetype, And we've heard about archetypes from people like Jung and Joseph Campbell and so forth. These are financial archetypes that have been related to those sorts of other archetypes through this author that we're doing in our book of the month. It's not about the money, Brent Kessel. And my talk today is revealing your financial archetype, So we know that our behaviors are a result of our beliefs, yes? Our behaviors are a result of our beliefs. We may or may not be aware of those beliefs, though, right? We may or may not be aware of them. We may or may not be aware of why we may have never even thought about why our financial picture is the way it is, be it hugely abundant or be it in lack and scarcity. We may have never thought about what is creating that. Why me? Why is my life this way, right? We sometimes don't think of that. We typically have a tendency to either rebel or repeat the experiences that we learned. We either rebel against, like I love Scarlett O'Hara, right, in the movie, as God is my witness, I'll never go hungry again. Right? She created a belief based on her experiences, and that was a thing she made at that point. She would never go hungry again, no matter what it took. And many of us as little children made some of those same declarations when it comes to this thing called money, this energy called money. We made those decisions. And our author this month suggests that the human mind works really well to mask the sources of our pain. That's that core story, isn't it? We mask that through this decision. Scarlett was masking the pain of being hungry, the pain of war. She was masking that by her adamant declaration that she would never go hungry again. She was making it about the food, wasn't she? Not about what had happened to her. And we have done the same many times in our financial life and decisions. He suggests that our core story has created this archetype that we live through in our financial lives. So we're going to take a look at these 8 archetypes. We're going to move through them quickly. We're not going deep. If you want to go deep with us, come Tuesday night, 6 to 7:30. We're going to do some fun exploration on Tuesday. But if you have not discovered your core story, or if it's not real clear to you what that is, these archetype descriptions might trigger some memories. Pay attention to those. These archetypes might trigger you. That has been my work this week. They trigger us because we look at life through our own archetype. And when we hear about others, we may either think, that's nuts, or why would somebody do that? Or we might even get our buttons pushed and get angry, okay? Those are signs. Look at those if those pop up for you this morning. Ready? All right, let's see what we got going on with money, the emotional triggers. Are you ready for that? Psychiatrist and psychoanalyst Carl Jung says archetypes resemble the beds of rivers, dried up because the water has deserted them, though it may return at any time. An archetype is something like an old water course along which the water of life flowed for a time, digging a deep channel for itself. The longer it flowed, the deeper the channel, and the more likely that it sooner or later the water will return, that the response will return. So a financial archetype is that lens through which we view money based on the meanings that we have assigned to it. Based on the meanings we've assigned to it. And as I said, this week's reading has been very fascinating for me as I've moved through these 8 archetypes and delved into them, and to watch my own resistance bubble up, my own emotions and so forth bubble up, my own memories pop up for me. Tuesday night we were having class and a conversation, and a story popped up, and I shared it about my father who always carried a $100 bill in his wallet. And I remember that as a child. He always had that $100 bill in there. And he always said he would never be broke as long as he had that. He was a Depression-era child. He said, I'll never be broke as long as I have that $100 in my wallet. I rarely ever saw him spend that, but he always had it. He always had it. What triggered for me was the fact that I carry a $100 bill in my wallet. Particularly if I'm traveling, it goes in my passport sleeve. I did not realize until Tuesday evening where that had come from. Security, safety, emergency, be prepared, right? Did not realize where that came from. Those are some of our core money stories that we have that we may not know where they came from. So our first archetype is the guardian. The core story for a guardian usually begins with a worried child, a concerned child. They may see their parents struggle over money, and they may feel responsible. They may need to keep an eye out. They may need to be cautious. They may not eat all of take an extra helping of food to make sure there's enough for everybody else. So they're kind of a guardian. There's a fear of not enough money, a fear of running out of money. They can't afford the stuff that other kids have. There's not enough for the rainy day. That sort of thing. Guardians are afraid of something going terribly wrong. Terribly wrong. I've got to be ready for the next recession. Just got to keep an eye out, keep my feelers out, right? Some sort of a doomsday scenario or fear of not surviving. That's the guardian. Now, I just got back from Nashville, kind of a southern thing, and you all know I'm from the South. Jeff Foxworthy. Have you ever heard his little thing, you might be? Right? You might be a guardian if financial security is most important to you and you keep a close eye on your investments. You might be a guardian. Number 2, I work hard. I make a good living. I deserve it. That's the pleasure seeker. That's the pleasure seeker. A belief that money is to be used to enjoy life now in this moment. Rainy day, phooey. I want to die broke. I want to spend everything I've got and die broke. Why would I save for a rainy day? They probably are the ones that live mostly in the moment, right? Right in this moment. It's all about this moment. Pleasure seekers turn to spending to protect them from their pain. They turn to spending. Someone I used to work for in sales many years ago was a very good salesperson, and every time the contract would come in, off they go to buy something or celebrate, right? Woohoo, made a sale. It's like, but the loan's not approved and the sale hasn't closed yet, so you don't have the money yet. Doesn't matter, I did it. Reward, I work hard. That's your pleasure seeker, right? That's your pleasure seeker. So you might be a pleasure seeker if you feel elated when purchasing for sensory enjoyment. The new car, the new, you just got to have it. It's the newest one out. I got to trade up this year. It's the newest thing. Got to do that. If more money means more pleasure, means more happiness. That's what the pleasure seeker thinks. Pleasure seeker payoff is enjoying something with their senses. Maybe temporary. I don't care, because they don't think about tomorrow, right? It's all about working for the money to have fun. Have fun. The third archetype is the idealist. It's the idealists. Idealists are against money. They are against money. Money is bad. Money is the root of all evil. They may have a visceral, negative emotional response when they talk about money. And money is what gets in the way of happiness. The system is corrupt. Corporate America is immoral, right? We know people like that. We may have those feelings. Some of that's true, right? Some of that's true. And the thing with these archetypes is, remember, it's about the imbalance. It's about the imbalance. That's what we're talking about today, is the imbalance in the archetypes. We all have a little of all of these archetypes. We all have a little of them. But it's when they get imbalanced that we end up in that side that can create lack and limitation in our lives because of it. So the idealist has these core beliefs that money is bad, it's wrong, it's immoral, and there may be some fear or some lack in their past. They may have been discriminated against in some way in their past that creates that for them, that creates that wall. And Ganja, the spiritual teacher, says there's nothing wrong with idealism, but it can't really deliver the truth because it's an idea about the truth. So idealists turn to their convictions to protect themselves from pain. It's almost like protesting too much to protect themselves against the pain. They may blame others in the system rather than doing their own inner work to discover a more balanced way of dealing with money. You may be an idealist if you are more likely to give $5 to someone on the street than to an organized charity. You may be an idealist. Number 4, what about the savers? Saving's good, right? Saving's good. We hear so much about the baby boomers haven't saved enough and can't ever retire and they're going to have to work forever. You save. And again, it's not about saving being bad. Saving is good. It's about the imbalance. When we are so focused on saving that we're frozen in life. We're just frozen in life and can't move forward. He gives an example in the book of a guy that's, I think he's a software engineer or something. He's making good money. He's got good savings. And he told him, he said, I am more comfortable going to the Chinese buffet for $10 by myself than accepting the invitation with my friends to go to the trendy restaurant that I know is going to cost me $25. Because I know I can save that $15. So to his own detriment and social interaction and friendships and so forth, something that he could easily afford, he froze himself and said, no, I'll go over here and do the $10 and save that $15 because I can see my savings increase by that. So that's the saver. And again, these are in the side of it that's imbalanced, okay? It's the side that's imbalanced. So you might be a saver if money represents security, stability, protection, and nourishment. Many of us with Depression-era parents may have experienced some of that. The payoff is watching that savings account grow and taking such pride and joy in that. So the next one is called the star archetype. And we see this in Hollywood, of course, a lot. That's probably why it was named the Star. And these folks think that money is only to make them look good, either physically, like our friend Joan Rivers. Remember, she had so much plastic surgery that doctors and her daughter were doing interventions for her because she was so into the star archetype. And she was using her money for that. They want to make sure it may be the right neighborhood. It may be the right school. It may be plastic surgery. It may be the cosmetics or the dress or the car or the right friends, or maybe it's artwork. Maybe it's making sure that the gifts and donations and philanthropy is in such a way, right? So the star is all about investing their money in ways that are going to make them look good the way they think other people perceive them. Make sense? That's the star. I have a story to tell on myself on that too. Like I said, remember we all have these archetypes, right? I've shared that when I was 19 years old, I left Virginia and moved to Dallas. And I did okay. I was a country girl from the deep south, well, not the deep south, but the hills. And I went away and I got a good job and I did well with it and I was making decent money. And it was time to go home for the 10-year reunion, 28 years old. I go back to the reunion. I rented the nicest car that they had at the airport. It was a Lincoln Continental. 1989, it was a boat. And I had my brand new outfit that I just bought in Dallas. Had my hair done and it was big. And I get to the reunion and I pull in and I'm feeling good, right? Because I am a star in my own mind. And I think the way that I've shown up is representing that to everybody in my class. Needless to say, they've known me since I was in kindergarten and they didn't give a rip. So anyway, but it made me feel good, and that's the star archetype. And like I say, we all have that, don't we? We all have some of all of these in us. It's when it gets imbalanced and we do like Joan, to our detriment, We're not taking care of our children because we're so into getting the next cosmetic surgery or the next outfit or the next new car. Okay, makes sense? So you might be a star if you believe the best use of money is to improve appearances, to impress people, and for social attention. The payoff is feeling classy, elegant, cool, or hip among your friends, right? Feels like ego too, doesn't it? Anyway. Ever felt like you're unable to master the way that will create long-term financial self-sufficiency? I'm not talking about giant wealth. I'm just talking about sufficiency. And there are folks who live paycheck to paycheck, month to month, can never sort of get it put together. They might make a ton of money. They've lost a ton of money. And it always seems to come back to the same bottom line every month, nothing left in the checking account. And we hear this with lottery winners, right? We've all heard those stories where they win the massive amounts or there's a big inheritance. 5 years later, they're right back where they were. That is known as the innocent. That is known as the innocent in the archetypes of the financial archetypes. They work hard, but they just can't quite, money won't stick to them. Money just won't stick to them. So you may be an innocent if you avoid putting significant attention on money, right? Just don't deal with it. I don't deal with money. I don't want to know about money. Or you believe that, or hope that life will work out for the best, or if you always have more month than money, or again, paycheck to paycheck on a regular type of basis. In spiritual teaching, we know what we focus on expands. So if you're ignoring your money and not paying any attention to it whatsoever, not making it welcome, it's not a priority to you. A lot of the innocence you may find in physicians. I know when we were in the real estate boom before the Great Recession, that many physicians were buying medical office condos. And many of them lost that because their focus is on healing, their focus is on medicine, and they were not good with the money and the real estate aspect of it. And that is the way the innocents work typically. So number 7, caregiver. We all have heard and know the stress that and the burden that can be felt by caregivers. in general in life and caregiving sorts of occupations. There's a caregiver archetype in these financial archetypes as well. And this person takes on responsibility, whether it's voluntarily or involuntarily, for the financial needs of another to their own detriment. Again, it's the imbalance in that, right? And if there is maybe there's there's 5 kids, and one of the children is has a mental handicap, or is autism or something, and there's one sibling that takes that responsibility for that sibling for the rest of their lives. The other 3 don't. But the one does. That would be the caregiver in that family, right? That would be the caregiver. Or maybe it's a parent who was suffering from depression or some sort of sickness, and the caregiver child stepped in to take care of mom or dad or a friend. That is where that caregiver idea can come from in this financial archetype. You might be a caregiver if you are a large donor, a large giver, perhaps giving away a large percentage of your income to others. Most of the caregiver archetypes decided at a very young age that the best use of money is to take care of others. I need to make money. I need to get a job so I can take care of other people. And share that money with them. Our author suggests, and I agree, that caregiver tendencies could really blanket over all of the other 7 archetypes and benefit them, because that's a very key component to caring for each other on our planet, isn't it? It's a very key component. So our final archetype is the empire builder. The empire builder. They believe that they will be happy when they make a significant and lasting contribution to the world. You may be an empire builder if you believe you will be somebody when you achieve your vision or purpose. You may get your buttons pushed, empire builder. Yeah, that one can push our buttons, can't it? Because they seem egotistical, they seem controlling, they seem, right? And think about Bill Gates, Oprah Winfrey, the dynasties that they've created. Bill Gates is a wonderful example because Bill created Microsoft, right? And look at what a wonderful contribution to the world that has been. And what he is currently doing with his foundation. The empire builders are the ones who are so driven by their vision to amass enough wealth, and usually the wealth is going back into the company and back into their visions. Virginia Piper and all of the things that beautiful foundation has done for our community, right here in Scottsdale. So the empire builder, while we may get a button pushed because of the way they're so driven in the world, look at the good. Look at the good that they do. And you can see how the combination and the balance of all 8 of those archetypes come together in the whole expression of who we are. The trick is finding the imbalancing, the imbalances that we may be seeing life through because of the core stories that we were influenced by or made up in our youth. Make sense? Yeah. So you might be an empire builder if you think some is good but more is required. Our author cautions us, often it is the archetype we reject that we most need in order to create balance and freedom in our lives. So as you've thought about these 8 archetypes, as you've gone through these today, if there's one that went, think about that may be the one needed to create balance, to rebalance your archetypes. All of these were developed in us because it was the most intelligent response at the time of the condition that we were experiencing. Many of us experienced the conditions at a very young age, made up our stories, made up our mind, and began to live our lives that way. Many of those stories may have been superseded in a relationship, be it a romantic relationship, a marriage, or a business relationship or partnership, where you came up against a different archetype. Let's say you were the pleasure seeker and you got involved with the saver. Can you see where those two might have a conflict in relationship when it comes to money? If it's an empire builder and an innocent, innocent's going, not the money, and the innocent is conflicted because they may be in love with that empire builder, and the empire builder is providing a great lifestyle and, family and all of that. So you can see where the conflict can come in those things. And it's fascinating, as I've done this work this week, to really look at those dynamics within these archetypes and how life shows up, and some of the conflicts we engage in. Many can be simply around these sorts of things. So just fascinating. And Tuesday, as I said, we're going to dig deeper into these and really see if we can uncover what our archetype is, and then begin to discover how to balance that to bring us into more balance with all of the various archetypes that are part of us. So let's turn to our practicing the principles. Our first one this week, I'm going to invite you to continue to reflect on your core money story. Pay attention to those memories when they come up. Jot down a note, and then begin to look for a pattern. Begin to look and see if a pattern emerges. This story, this happened. That story, this happened. This story, oh, look, there's a pattern of why I'm a guardian, caregiver, innocent, whatever the archetype is for you. Begin to focus on those. Look for your pattern. And number 2 is review these 8 archetypes. There's a slide coming up in a minute that you'll get all of them all together. But review them and see which one resonates most with you. What do you think? Yeah, that's me. That's me. And then also, what are you most resistant to? Because those 2 are going to be the biggest clues for you in how to find that balance once again. And also how to work within all of them, right? Because we do come across people in our lives who are different from us, who have different thoughts and ideas. Maybe we work in a company where the corporate culture is one way and we're a different way, and we don't understand why they can't be more like us. And when we can start to see these various archetypes, we recognize the corporate culture and the corporate archetype led by the board of directors or whomever is there. Number 3, if you find yourself feeling stressed over finances this week, stop and meditate. Brent is a financial planner, a very successful financial planner. And he is steeped in the Eastern teachings. He meditates. He recommends it highly as meditations on his website and so forth. He's a very interesting man. But we know that meditation calms us, centers us, and can help us regain our focus. And so meditating will help us to also remember, what's our source? God's our source, right? It's the source of all that is. And when we can remember that, it begins to elevate us up above our story, everybody else's story, everything that's going on, and allows us to become one once again in the centeredness and the wholeness of who we are. So take that moment when you feel the stress coming up and just meditate. Just meditate. So I think understanding these financial archetypes could be the key for us to unlock the financial challenges that may have plagued us all of our lives. Because if we're living from one of those archetypes, there is a downside if it is imbalanced. And that downside could be that which plagues us now that we can begin to unravel, unlock, and heal. It takes courage, support, self-love, and willingness to look honestly and truthfully at the financial situation, to dig into it and go, okay, it is what it is, and here's what I can do. Here's what I can do. So here are the 8 different archetypes, the pitfalls and the gifts of each one. We'll leave that up after service. We'll leave that up after service for you if you'd like to take a closer look at it. But they all have benefits and they all have pitfalls. Mm-hmm. I think we all have all 8 of them, but one of them might be out of balance because of the core story. Yeah, one of them might be out of balance because of that. So I want to close today with a quote from the author of The Science of Mind, our founder, Dr. Ernest Holmes, and he's got a little book called Know Yourself. And in it he says, how much life, abundance, goodness, truth, and beauty can we mentally entertain? How much can you imagine? How much can you hold in your mind? This is the measure of our possible experience. This is the mold of acceptance. The infinite fills all molds and flows forever into new and greater ones. It is the unborn possibility of limitless experience that we give birth to. So I invite you now to join me in an affirmative prayer as we anchor this morning. Dawn will sing for us in just a moment. So how good it is that we come together on Sunday morning in recognition of our community, of our connection, not only with each other, but in the one, in the wholeness, with all that is, every person and animal and plant and everything on our planet, that we are connected in this oneness, in this universal field. And we recognize that this one is God. It is the source, the essence, the presence. It's the harmony of life. It is peace, love, and intelligence. It is just all that is, was, or ever will be. And all of it's here now present in this room, in through now, as each one of us, as me as an expression of it, and as each of us as individualized and unique expressions of it as it lives its life through us, through our own unique individual choices, ideas, thoughts, and expression. We are that wholeness. We are that harmony and love and intelligence and wisdom. We are the prosperity and the abundance of the universe. And so as I know this for each of us, I speak my word for and about each and every one in this room today, knowing, claiming, and accepting the truth of who we are. That no matter which of these archetypes we most express in our lives, no matter what our core story is, no matter what these human conditions that we have found ourselves in is, we know that we are divine beings having this human experience called life, and that we have the capability to work within these universal laws, to expand and grow our awareness, our consciousness, and our acceptance, and our making welcome of that which is desiring to be expressed as us, through us. For Spirit can only give to us what Spirit can give through us. We must allow. We must allow. I include in our prayer this morning prayers for those in Japan affected by the weather system, the typhoon there, knowing that all help and assistance and aid and healing that they need is available to them. And also for all of our friends in California, experiencing the fires there, knowing moisture and the fires going out, and help and aid and safety for all of our firefighters, first responders, and everyone that's there in those communities. We send our blessings as Scottsdale Center for Spiritual Living. And so I am grateful this morning for manifested prayer, for the manifestation of this prayer, for life and community, for each and every one that's gathered here this day. As I release this into the action of law, the activity of mind, knowing that it is done, it is so, and we affirm this together by saying, and so it is.